I'm a night shift cop. I stopped a van that shouldn't exist. I'm sitting under the fluorescent lights of a 24-hour gas station right now, and I still can't stop shaking. The engine is running, the heater is on full blast, every light inside my cruiser is turned on, and even with all that light around me, I still feel like something is waiting just beyond the edge of it. I'm a county law enforcement officer, and less than an hour ago, I pulled over a family on a lonely highway beside a lake. Dispatch ran their plates and told me that family disappeared 30 years ago. I know exactly how that sounds. But my passenger side window is shattered, my cruiser door is bent inward like something tried to crush it, and there's like mud all over the passenger seat. If you're ever driving alone at night and you see a vehicle drifting slowly ahead of you near deep water, don't stop. I am parked directly under the harsh, buzzing fluorescent canopy of a 24-hour fuel station. I have locked all four doors. I have the engine running, the heater turned all the way up, and every interior light switched on. I'm surrounded by concrete, glass, and artificial light, and I still can't stop my hands from shaking against the steering wheel. I've only been on the force for 2 years, but in that time I've built a reputation for being strict, careful, and completely reliant on protocol. I like rules, I like guidelines. In this line of work, the manual is supposed to be your best tool. If you follow the steps, if you run the plates, if you approach the vehicle at the correct angle, you reduce variables and keep control of the situation. That's what I've always believed. My assigned patrol sector is a massive, desolate stretch of two-lane county highway. It runs along the eastern side of a deep freshwater lake, and when I say isolated, I mean nothing is out there. On one side of the road, there's a steep rocky embankment that drops down toward the black water. On the other side, there's an endless wall of dense pine forest. No houses, no side roads, no streetlights, no gas stations, no people. For over 40 miles, it's just a ribbon of asphalt trapped between deep woods and deep water. I work the graveyard shift, 10 at night until 6 in the morning. Most nights, the entire shift is just me driving back and forth in silence, listening to the hum of the tires and the occasional crackle of the dispatch radio. Sometimes I stop a trucker who missed a turn. Sometimes it's a local kid driving too fast. Usually nothing happens. It's quiet, predictable, almost boring. Tonight started exactly the same way. The weather was clear but bitterly cold. A thick layer of fog was rolling off the lake, creeping over the embankment and drifting across the road in pale waves. I was cruising at about 40 miles an hour, holding a cup of lukewarm coffee, scanning the road ahead with my headlights. At around 2:15 in the morning, I saw another vehicle a few miles ahead of me. That alone was unusual. Almost nobody uses that road that late unless they know exactly where they're going. So I sped up a little to close the distance. It was an older, dark-colored minivan. And as I got closer, I noticed two things. First, the passenger side taillight was completely out. Second, the van was drifting. Not swerving wildly, not jerking across the road like a drunk driver, just a slow, lazy weave. It crossed the center line, corrected, then drifted back toward the shoulder, dangerously close to the lake's side. That was enough. A broken taillight is minor, but a broken taillight plus lane drifting on a road like that at 2 in the morning, that's enough for a stop. Could be intoxication, could be exhaustion, either way I had to pull them over. So I got behind the van, kept a safe distance, and hit the overheads. The red and blue lights flashed across the road, reflecting off the fog, the trees, and the dark surface of the lake. The driver didn't react right away. That bothered me. It took almost a quarter mile before they finally noticed me. Then the right turn signal blinked on slowly, and the van eased over onto the narrow gravel shoulder, stopping just a few feet from the drop-off. Too close. Way too close. I parked behind them and followed my training exactly. I offset the cruiser slightly to the left, angled the wheels, put it in park, unbuckled my seatbelt, grabbed my flashlight. Then I stepped out into the cold. The night was dead quiet. The only sounds were the low rumble of both engines, the crunch of gravel under my boots, and the faint sound of water somewhere below the embankment. I walked up to the rear of the van and placed my hand firmly on the trunk lid. Standard procedure. If anything happens to you, there's physical proof you made contact with that exact vehicle. The metal felt strangely cold. And damp. That should have been the first sign something was wrong. But I ignored it. I kept walking. I moved up along the driver's side, keeping my flashlight low. I stopped just behind the driver's window, angled my body the way I was trained, and tapped the glass. The window rolled down manually with a slow squeak. I raised the flashlight. And inside, it looked completely normal. The driver was a middle-aged woman. She looked exhausted. Messy hair, heavy bags under her eyes. She squinted against the light. In the passenger seat was a middle-aged man in a flannel shirt, head tilted back, asleep like he hadn't noticed anything. In the back seat were two children, a boy and a girl, maybe 8 or 9, both asleep under blankets leaning against the windows. There were pillows, bags, and all the usual mess of a family road trip. It looked ordinary. So ordinary it actually made me relax. "Good evening, ma'am," I said. "I'm stopping you because your passenger side tail light is out and I noticed you were having some trouble maintaining your lane." She rubbed her face and nodded slowly. "I'm so sorry, officer," she said. Her voice was quiet and hoarse. "We've been driving for a very long time. I guess I'm more tired than I realized." It sounded believable. "It happens," I told her. "But driving exhausted on this stretch of highway is dangerous, especially this close to the water. I need to see your license, registration, and proof of insurance, please." She nodded again. She reached across, opened the glove compartment, and pulled out a small stack of papers. She handed them to me along with her license. And when her fingers brushed mine, I nearly flinched. Her skin was freezing. Not cold from the weather. I mean freezing. Like touching ice. I looked at her again. She just stared forward through the windshield. No expression. No movement. "I'm going to take these back to my cruiser and run your information," I said. "I'll be right back. Please remain in the vehicle." She didn't answer. Just gave me a slow nod. I turned around and walked back to my cruiser. I climbed in, shut the heavy door, and set the license and registration on the center console. I turned on the dome light so I could read the paperwork. Then I picked up the radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 4. I'm on a traffic stop with a dark-colored minivan, requesting a plate check." The radio crackled. The dispatcher on duty was an older woman who usually worked the quiet shifts. "Copy that, Unit 4, go ahead." I read off the plate number. "Copy," she said. "Stand by, system's running a little slow tonight." I set the microphone down and leaned back for a second, letting the heater warm my hands. At that point, the hard part of the stop was over. All I had to do was wait for the system, write a warning for the taillight, and tell the woman to find somewhere safe to rest. That's what I thought. While I waited, I glanced down at the small monitor mounted below the radio. It shows the live feed from the dashcam. Black and white. Simple. Mostly used to make sure everything during a stop is being recorded. Out of habit, I looked down to confirm the camera was pointed at the van. And I stopped breathing. The image on the screen was wrong. Completely wrong. The camera was aimed directly at the vehicle in front of me. But the van on the monitor was not the van I had just walked away from. On the screen it looked crushed. The roof was collapsed inward. The rear of the vehicle looked twisted and warped. The body looked dark and damaged, like it had been submerged somewhere for a very, very long time. Mud clung to the sides. Long strands of weeds hung from the frame. It looked less like a parked vehicle and more like something dragged up from the bottom of the lake. For a second, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. I looked up through the windshield. The real van was still there. Perfectly intact. Clean. Still parked on the shoulder. I could see the dim outline of the children in the back seat. Everything looked normal. Then I looked back at the monitor. The wrecked van was still there. And that's when I noticed the faces. 4 of them, pressed close together in the rear of the ruined vehicle. The mother, the father, the 2 children. Their features were hard to make out clearly in the grainy black and white feed, but they looked wrong. Pale, sunken, still, and all 4 of them were staring directly into the camera. Smiling, not naturally, not warmly. It was the kind of smile that doesn't belong on a human face. Wide, fixed, like they had been waiting for me to notice them. A cold wave of panic hit me so hard I couldn't breathe for a second. My hands locked around the edge of the monitor. I told myself the system was glitching. Bad connection. Damaged feed. Anything. I tore my eyes away from the screen and looked up again. The van in front of me was still normal. Still clean. Still quiet. Then I looked back down. The faces were still there. And one of them had moved. The mother had lifted her hand. She was tapping against the broken rear glass from the inside. I couldn't hear it through the cruiser. But on the screen I could see the motion. Tab. 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 And the smile never changed. I reached out and smacked the side of the monitor with my palm, hoping the image would reset. The screen flickered. Then came right back. Same image. Same faces. Same tapping. That's when the radio crackled. Unit 4, this is dispatch. Her voice sounded different now. Confused. Unsteady. I grabbed the mic so fast I nearly dropped it. Unit 4, go ahead. I ran the plates and the license, she said slowly. Are you absolutely sure you read that sequence correctly? Are you sure you're behind a dark minivan? I looked up at the normal van. Then back down at the monitor. Then back at the van again. Yes, I said, I'm right behind it. Why? There was a pause. Then she said the sentence I'll probably hear in my head for the rest of my life. The system flagged the registration. Those plates belong to a vehicle connected to a missing persons case from 30 years ago. I felt every bit of warmth leave my body. What? A family of 4, she continued. They were driving cross-country, last seen at a gas station near your current location. Police believe the driver may have fallen asleep and gone off the embankment into the lake. They searched for weeks. They never found the car. They never found the bodies. The license you gave me belongs to the mother. She was declared legally dead decades ago. The radio went silent. I just sat there, frozen. The heater was blasting hot air into the cabin, but I was shivering. Slowly, I raised my eyes and looked through the windshield. The van was gone. Not driving away. Not pulling out. Not disappearing into the fog. Just gone. The shoulder in front of me was empty. I grabbed the spotlight handle and swung the beam onto the gravel where the van had been parked. No tire tracks. No fresh marks. Nothing. Just a wide puddle of black water spread across the shoulder. It was bubbling slightly, sinking into the dirt. And then the smell hit me. Stagnant water. Old mud. Rot. The kind of smell that seems ancient. I looked down at the dashcam monitor. The feet had gone normal again. Just the empty shoulder. The puddle. Nothing else. That was the moment I stopped caring about procedure. I dropped the radio mic, grabbed the shifter, and slammed the cruiser into drive. I didn't care about the report. I didn't care about the stop. I just needed to leave. But before my foot even hit the gas, the entire cruiser lurched violently to the right. Hard enough to throw me sideways. I thought for a split second another vehicle had hit me. Then it happened again. The SUV was moving. Not forward. Not backward. Sideways. Something was dragging it across the gravel shoulder toward the edge of the embankment. I slammed my foot down on the accelerator. The engine roared. The tires spun. Gravel sprayed everywhere. But the cruiser kept sliding. The pull dragging me sideways was too strong. I looked out the passenger side window. The lake below was no longer calm. The dark surface was churning. Foam crashed against the rocks. And rising out of the mist near the waterline were 4 figures. The family. The mother. The father. The 2 children. But not the way I had seen them in the van. They looked pale. Lifeless. Wrong. Their movements were stiff and unnatural. Their faces were locked in those same impossible smiles. Something darker was moving behind them. Long, heavy shapes in the fog. I still can't explain exactly what I saw clearly. And maybe I don't want to. But it felt like the lake itself was reaching up toward the road using them. The passenger side window cracked, then shattered inward. Cold air and the smell of lake water filled the cruiser. Something slammed against the side of the vehicle again. The door buckled. The whole frame groaned. I hit the gas harder. The rear of the cruiser slipped dangerously close to the edge. For 1 second, I felt the back end drop. The SUV tilted. My stomach dropped with it. If the balance shifted any farther, I was going straight into the water. I locked both hands on the wheel and floored it. The engine screamed. The front tires, still partly on the asphalt, finally caught. For one horrible second, the cruiser felt trapped in place, like something on the lakeside was pulling just as hard as the engine was pushing. Then the tires bit down. The SUV jerked forward violently. Something outside scraped hard along the side of the cruiser. The vehicle launched back onto the road. I didn't stop. I didn't even think. I just drove. I kept my foot pinned to the floor and shot down that highway faster than I've ever driven in my life. No sirens. No radio. No turning back. Just road, fog, and darkness in the rearview mirror. I looked back once. Only once. And all I could see were shapes near the edge of the embankment, and then nothing. Just fog. I drove until the dark finally broke and I saw the bright artificial glow of this gas station canopy ahead like some kind of lighthouse. I pulled under the lights and threw the cruiser into park. I've been sitting here ever since. Eventually, I forced myself to look at the passenger side. The window is completely shattered. The heavy door is bent inward. And the passenger seat is covered in dark like mud and broken glass. I'm not going back to the station. I'm leaving the keys in the ignition. I'm walking away from this job. Because tonight taught me something training never did. Sometimes the thing you stop on a dark road isn't stranded. It isn't tired. It isn't asking for help. Sometimes it's waiting for you to stop. So if you're ever driving alone at night, and you're on some lonely road near deep water, and you see a vehicle drifting slowly ahead of you like it wants your attention, don't stop. Don't pull over. Don't try to help. And whatever you do, don't look too long into the dark beside the road. Because some things don't stay buried.